Good morning, guys. We are starting our Unit 2 this morning, officially. Yesterday we started it, but today we actually start getting to read a little bit. The story that we're going to read together this morning, I do want you to have your readers out and a pencil and a highlighter, because we are going to annotate together, but it's a short story, and it's called The Gnat and the Lion. I want you to look at the page real quick and take note of anything you see that might help you understand the genre, or anything else about the text. Just, photos, pictures, anything. So look real quick at that. And I know I've noticed a couple of things. I see the picture of the lion and the title, The Gnat and the Lion. Now I actually see the gnat too. I didn't see the gnat at first, but there he is. So I know that the story is about a gnat and a lion. I already know that this is probably fiction because I see by Aesop, and you may not know that it's fiction because of that, but Aesop, you may have heard Aesop fables before. So because I'm familiar with that, that helped me. But you should have noticed, if you didn't know, I'm trying to refocus here, about Aesop, as you start scanning the text, which is what we do when we want to figure out what genre it is, I see that the animals are talking to each other. I see quotation marks, which let me know they're talking. That's dialogue. So the lion's talking to the gnat's talking back to the lion. So pretty quickly I know that this is a fiction text. And at the bottom of my page, in black bold print, I see that there is a moral of the story. And the moral is that pride goes before a fall. So we'll talk about that too. But because there's a moral, I also know that it's a fable. Because fables often teach me a moral. Something I can apply to my life. All right, let's start reading. I really still feel like this is very unfocused. Maybe it's just so far away. Better? Away with you, vile insect. I'm going to circle that word vile. We'll come back to it later. But it's a word that's just new to me. Said a lion angrily to a gnat that buzzed around his head. I'm underlining angrily and buzzed because this allows me to know how the lion feels and what the insect is doing, the gnat, which will help me to understand this word. But the gnat was not the least disturbed. Right now, we can see a lot about how these two animals, you remember we talked about characters showing us, revealing to us about their character through their actions and their words. Through what the lion said, you vile insect, it lets me know that this word is describing the insect, so it's an adjective. I see an exclamation mark, which means this lion is saying this with some emotion, some expression, and he said it angrily. And the gnat is buzzing around his head. So I want you to think real quick. What do you think he's describing this insect as being when he says vile? He's angry when he says it. The insect's buzzing around his head, and he's calling him vile. I'm going to put mine out to the side, and we'll talk about it in class. I don't want you to see what I write. Write your definition to the side, what you think it means. I wrote mine. Do you think, he said spitefully to the lion, that I am afraid of you because they call you king? Through these words, I'm starting to realize that this gnat, he's a little sassy. I don't know. He seems a little sassy to me. He says it very spitefully. And he's like, who do you think you are just because you're king? The next instant, the gnat flew at the lion and stung him sharply on the nose. Friends, today we are really focusing. I know that I tend to not focus very well because I feel like good readers are paying attention to lots of things when they read, like words they don't know and how the characters are. But I do know that today we want to focus on those main ideas, or key details, the main ideas. So I've underlined and highlighted, the next instant the gnat flew at the lion and stung him sharply on the nose. So that to me is a key detail. That seems to me, them having a little bit of a fuss as a detail. I mean, that's something that you might want to just kind of note out here to the side. I'll just put it over here. That they're kind of fussing, because that lets us know how the story is starting and if they're friends or not friends. They're fussing, and then the gnat stings him on the nose. This made the lion mad with rage, and he struck fiercely at the gnat. So now we were just fussing, and now we are fighting. That's right, we have moved to now we are fighting. They're actually physically hurting each other. But the lion only succeeded in tearing himself with his claws. Didn't seem like he hurt the gnat too much. Again and again the gnat stung the lion. Ooh, it's not being very nice. The lion was now roaring terribly, at last worn out from their battle and covered with wounds that his own teeth and claws had made. The defeated lion gave up the fight. So there are a lot of details in this paragraph number 3. The proud gnat buzzed away. Oh, the proud gnat buzzed away to tell the whole world about his victory. But instead, he flew straight into a spider's web. Teaches him to be sassy. And there he who had defeated the king of beasts came to a miserable end. What does that mean, guys? He came to a miserable end. The prey of a little spider. Yeah, poor little gnat, he died. He's kaput. That means broken. He died. And then the moral. Pride goes before a fall. So, that moral, and I know morals sometimes they use some funny language. Sometimes it's not so easy to understand a moral because of the way that they speak in the moral. But it says pride goes before a fall. Now, the ultimate fall in this story is that the gnat died. That was his fall. Okay, and pride came before it. And we see that in this last paragraph where it says, the proud gnat buzzed away telling the whole world. But then he died. So it's saying if you're very prideful, and I like to use the word boast. He's boasting, because boasting means it's okay to feel proud. You know, if we get a really good grade on our test, we feel proud. If when I got my flowers all planted in front of my house when we moved in, because we had no grass, no flowers, just a bunch of sand in the yard. When I got my flower bed done, I was very proud. Miss Corbin even came over so I could show her all my flowers. So it's okay to be proud, but you don't want to boast. Boast is when you just go around going, oh, look at me, look what I've got, look what I did. It's not nice, okay? So when we are prideful, oftentimes we will fall. Does it mean you're going to die every time? No. Okay, it doesn't mean you're going to die every time. It just means that you need to be careful, because those kinds of actions can often have consequences. All right, so we're going to go real quick to our key detail and main idea chart, or summary chart. Change my screen. So keep your book out in front of you. So here's our screen, our chart. This is a chart that you might work on again later with the next story. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. So we just read the fable, The Gnat and the Lion. Now, the next story that we'll look at today is The Gnat and the Bull. So you'll use this same chart to analyze that text. But we're looking at the key ideas of the story. and we're looking at how we would summarize that story. And this is one of the questions on your assessments that you guys often struggle with very much. So we're going to talk about this one together. This is a really good one for us to do. So looking back at your annotations, and I've got my book over here to the side. Oh, no, go back. I want you to think about the beginning of the story. What was really important in the beginning of the story? Well, I have in the beginning that the lion, that first paragraph, we put the little bracket to the side and we said they were kind of fussing. So in the beginning, we have the lion and the gnat fussing at each other, right? And that's because the gnat was annoying the lion. Then in the middle, we have the gnat stings the lion over and over again, but the lion hurts himself instead of the gnat. Okay? In the end of our story, we have the gnat flies off, bragging to the world, and then flies into a spider web and dies. Okay, so these are some of the key details that we had in our story. If I wanted to summarize that, I would simply combine those sentences and say, a gnat, and I'm going to use a big word here, instigated a fight with the lion by stinging him over and over. When the lion tried to fight back, he only hurt himself. The proud and bragging gnat flew off and into a spider web where he died. Okay? And so we've just taken those key details and summarized them into a summary that has, 3 or 4 sentences. 1, 2, 3. So it's not that we're recreating our summary. We're taking these details and combining them together. And that's the difference in a key detail and just random details. We had a lot more details that we could have added, but the key details that were needed in order to summarize the beginning, the middle, and the end of a story should be those details that you include in your summary. So as you're reading, you may make a lot more notes, but you may not add all the notes you make into your summary. So today, as you work through the gnat and the bull, I want you to think, annotate all over your story. You don't need to just pay attention to key details or just pay attention to one thing. We need to be looking at all these different things that good readers do. But when you start going back to pull out the key details, you need to remember to ask yourself, what happened in the beginning that made the middle happen, that made the end happen? Those are the details that you want to include in your summary. See you guys in just a little bit, and be ready to talk about the next story.